Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Newcastle Motorsports Park for the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals. It's a nice and cool Saturday morning as we kick off round 5 for the semi-pro classes and the first of 2 days in round number 3 for the pro divisions. Myself, Xander Clements, and Rob Howden here from Newcastle, Indiana for the Summer Nationals. And Rob, you and I were joking with each other before this week. It's actually been a minute since you and I have been together for a full race weekend, and it doesn't feel right like that it's been this long since we've got to call a full weekend together.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I've had some conflicts with my other programs, the USF Pro Championships, but always great to be back here with the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. You know, you think back to the initial days of this organization, initial days of this series back in 2010. It's been 15 years, and to get back here to Newcastle, one of my favorite tracks as well. I'm looking forward to sit alongside you for what I expect to be 2 really strong days of racing with championships up for grabs.
Yeah, and we are just on our 3rd group here for the warm-up session with championships up for grabs in one of just about every class, but the championship dynamic is a little bit different. For example, in this micro-sub class and the rest of our semi-pro divisions on the lineup, they had 6 rounds of racing on the year. They get 1 drop, so there could be a chance if someone's had a really good run through the first 4 rounds of the season that they could mathematically clinch the title with a really good round 5 and living on the first 5 rounds they've run. But in some of the biggest turnout classes like KA Junior and KA Senior, where there has been more unpredictable racing than predictable racing, that one has probably got all of your contenders with at least 1 blemish or so. In J&M Racing Micro Swift, though, Rob, you've got the points here lined up for us as the drivers get ready to kick off weekend number 3. Where does everything kind of stack up?
Yeah, this is one of those categories where a driver up front has had such a good year so far, and that is Zane Burgess in that 255. Sody Kart driver, as we know, was very strong throughout the year. 281 points up on Santiago Orioli when Godshock there, P3. Sterling Mulata and Luca Bessarel rounding out the top 5. But, you know, you talked about it, Xander. Not many times do we have someone who locks on round number 5. The first 2 rounds, of course, the Winter Nationals and the Spring Nationals. Zane able to get the job done. Very likely one of the top drivers in the country right now in the cadet categories. And a guy we expect to potentially get it locked down here today.
Now, for those that are watching along with warm-up, obviously that looks like big gaps here. This is just showing the position gaps on the racetrack for warm-up. It will switch over to sorting by the best lap time for qualifying, and we may be able to get that swapped over here for you for the remaining warm-up sessions. But the actual lineup of how they went in that session, like you mentioned, with Jaden Francisco quickest, and it's a short warm-up for everyone on a major racetrack like this here, the backwards layout at Newcastle with the infield shark fin. They've only got 2, maybe 3 laps at speed. So at the end of 2, Francisco at a 1:18.87. Zane Burgess, Santi Orioli, as Rob mentioned, in the championship fight. Sterling Mulata ends up in 4th. Win Godshock 5th, and well, granted, when you only have 2 laps and you're in a gaggle like this of 7, 8, 9 karts on the racetrack, it's probably not going to be the most accurate read of where everyone's real pace is, and they're still racing all the way into the cell tower hairpin here, but they're going to make their way into the scale line. We'll get set for Master Shifter, and we'll run you through the rest of our top 10 of how they finished from this 24 driver micro swift class, kicking off with Wynn Godshock, who ended 5th, about a half second off the pace, Rob.
Yeah, you go to their 600s, back to Cameron Johnson, P6, Byron Borman in 7th, Dutch Westbrook in 8th, Jake Maniola in 9th, next X30 Junior, followed by Mini Swift before we roll into the Pro Show warm-ups. You see drivers coming to a stop there outside of the racetrack. Xander, you said cool morning, 62 degrees. I walked outside, expected to get that humidity and heat again. Good thing I brought a long sleeve, threw that on quickly when I got out. We know it's going to get warmer today, expecting temperatures in probably the low 80s for the remainder of the weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely going to heat up, and we don't want to jinx anything. Racers are very superstitious. There is a small chance of the R word to throw a bit of a wrench into things, a little bit of liquid sunshine potentially tomorrow afternoon, right as we get into the final main events of the year, which could be very interesting to play into the championships, especially in the Pro X30 and Pro Shifter classes that cannot afford a drop. And with the way that their kind of season has morphed with an experimental format that has somewhat shifted from round 1 to round 2, it's the same from round 2 to round 3, to try and keep the points equal, it's made it where the heats are only a quarter of the weight of the main event. For those watching along here, folks, this is the beginning of our free coverage this morning. We'll bring you all of the semi-pro qualifying sessions here at 9:10 a.m. Eastern. A little typo there, but 8 a.m. to go through all the warm-ups for every class today. 9:10 a.m. kicks off 6:10 a.m. Pacific with the K8 Junior, first of 2 groups for qualifying. Then we'll go to KC Premium members for the rest of the afternoon, which will kick off with Pro Show qualifying and then into pre-finals. Split up through the day. They'll have 2 rounds of heats for the Pro X30s and Pro Shifters. That'll kind of get blended from the semi-pro pre-finals and the semi-pro main events for round number 5. And then tomorrow, we come back again, warm-up, qualifying again for semi-pro classes, pre-finals for them, warm-ups for the pro divisions, and main events for the semi-pro classes, as well as the pre-finals. That's on the premium subscription. But while the pro classes trade off putting their qualifying, which is going to be really cool. Again, Rob, you haven't been in person to see this new knockout qualifying format. But their main events will be free to view. So, again, no IndyCar, no NASCAR this weekend. Share it to all your racing friends. Show them how good the kart racing stuff is. If they're not able to watch on the premium side for $9.99 a month, that's okay. We'll have plenty of free coverage in the morning and then tomorrow afternoon as well. But a loaded weekend, as always, with the SKUSA Pro Tour. It's all about getting as many laps as we can in the daylight here, and we're live from 8 a.m. to probably about 6 p.m. today, a full 10-hour run. Interesting things, Xander. Of course, as we know, the Summer Nationals have been here at Newcastle for many years, but a different layout this year, a significantly different layout using that Monza. You call it the shark fin there, coming from I-70, the hairpin back down to scoreboard. I talked to a couple of drivers, and they seem to like it. It's a little interesting, something a little bit different. It'll change the way the track races, I think, of course, leveraging scoreboard as well. Yeah, why don't we take a look at that? We'll see if our production team can take a look here and give you the overhead look at the track map for Newcastle Motorsports Park, presented by Kart Class. As you mentioned, Rob, first time that we're ever using this infield shark fin. Now, we have run backwards with the SKUSA Pro Tour here before, but typically after turns 1 and 2, that turn 3 is just a kink, and they go straight full speed into the turn 6 180, and that is the longest braking zone of the entire track, either direction, with the way that it runs, just because of the nature of that corner and the built-in rubber from going the opposite way. Now, this year, again, like you said, it adds that shark fin, and listening to here on EKN, you guys interviewed John Ports. He was talking about it, that this track typically has a lot of flow to it, and that is a quick kind of point-and-shoot section that he said kind of really changes the whole nature of the beast, right? You have 90% of the track, slow hands, nice and quick flow. There, turns 3, 4, and 5, well, you are up and over the curb sometimes, and you are quickly going back and forth. And I like the way it plays into the chassis setup as well. It's really going to transition that corner. Of course, turn number 4, which could be, depending on how, if you could call 18, really should probably be turn 1, but that 3, 4, 5 combination, I think it's going to be really crucial. Drivers are going to try to dive it in. We'll see how it plays out for turn 6. We finally go wheel-to-wheel racing. I think we'll get a better taste of how this track is going to race here for the drivers in the Summer Nationals. Right. And then the rest of the track, well, we've seen before here with the SKUSA Pro Tour, and this layout was run on our calendar for the last couple of years with the Stars Championship Series here. They've already had their race, but they had a lot of rain on Saturday. So even for the drivers that did run that event here a month and a half ago at Newcastle, they did not necessarily get a ton of racing time in the dry on this layout like they're expecting to have today. It also, again, makes that kind of a downhill run from turns 9 and 10 down into that cell tower hairpin. That's a major passing zone. And we've seen so much action in turns 12, 13, and 14 because it does get tight in that last kind of 3, 4, 5, or in this case 15, 16, 17 run to the line, that you'll see some really last-ditch efforts in turn 14 because you just exit out of 13 a little bit off to the driver's right, not all the way out. You quickly swing over to the left and you brush the brakes, and it's just tempting enough to send a dive bomb, but the guy's got to be careful because it's straight grass and up a berm if you go off in 14.
Well, I had a chance to race last year, obviously, in the KA100 Master category, and it was a ton of fun. I love this track. We didn't run the shark fin, but you talk about turn 10, roll in the corner into the cell tower corner. Again, you said out of 14, back to 15. Lot of overtaking opportunities in the last lap, potentially in 14, but then if you defend there in 14, that sets up the run back to turn 15. There's so many permutations of how you approach this particular race weekend, especially when it comes down to the final lap, as you said.
Well, the final lap is complete now here for Master Shifter, presented by Factory 3 GP Motorsport. And again, don't regard the times. That's just the entry list and where they were kind of spaced around the racetrack. But Tim Holloway,
yeah, the sun's kind of like behind me right now.
He's the only driver not listed with a program. So, Rob, I'm not sure. Maybe we can find out this weekend if he's on his own or.
I am kind of in the splash zone here a little bit.
How about that?
He knows this track very well. Out of his own garage on a TV cart in the back corner. The far garage all the way.
We need to have a safety meeting.
Turn number 1. So local driver knows this racetrack. Was really quick yesterday as well.
So if you're a one-man band yourself back home, Tim Hollowell is your guy in Master Shifter. He just put it on the boards with a 107.077. And yeah, nearly 2 seconds cleared in warm-up here. Granted, he was the first one out, and not everyone did the full session, but my goodness, what a lap here to start the day.
Yeah, he got his third lap. Only a couple drivers up front got their third lap. Hollowell did. Nicholas Bedard, Mike Rivera on the GFC got his third lap as well. Michael
the only problem with standing here is I'm getting a little bit of interference on my headset.
Out with the drivers in the shifter kart category, so indeed we'll see him step up. You got to expect guys like Joe Rook and Skitchy Barnes to be there. Luis Quiones on the factory kart was quickest once again. I saw him post up on his social media. He led Fast Friday at all 3 rounds this year. So unbelievably impressive for Quiones. 5th place there, 109.573. But again, just morning warm-up. Drivers getting a couple of laps in here. The length of this racetrack and the way we set up where we're leaving the track, where we're leaving the grid, makes for only a couple laps actually under the books when they come back through. But nonetheless, drivers all get an opportunity to get things underway. Before we go into qualifying, and Xander has set the master driver to be back on track at 9:50 a.m. their qualifying time as we head through the warm-up for the semi-pro category for X30 Junior. Xander, we didn't know that.
X30 Junior here on the racetrack in a moment as they begin to roll, and you'll get a good look at how they head out through the long access road. And, well, we've talked about trouble spots or big characteristic spots. One big moment there that happened just in front of our camera for the very first practice session yesterday in KA Senior. Connor Ferris in KA Senior ended up in the wall and had about 5 karts stacked up behind him as they went onto the racetrack. Totaled the go-kart, had to miss nearly the entire day Friday, and got back out for FP4 and then happy hour on a different Kart Republic frame, the newer version. They ended up actually 12th in the final practice session, which was pretty cool, but still they're like, we don't know how different this thing's gonna be. It's a complete difference in the diameter of the tubing, so a major difference. Started off the day, I was joking with his grandpa as well and saying, you know, when we've run this layout in the past, I typically expect some of the younger drivers, the micros or the minis. Connor Ferris has been running KA Senior for many years. He's got a lot of experience, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, Dad. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I went in too fast on the outlap.
We actually had a couple drivers go off in the K100 Junior category earlier today as well. The morning here down into turn number 14, throwing it down the bottom. And it happens, man. You know, you get out here. That's what morning warm-up's all about. Drivers got to clear the cobwebs out after a good sleep and get back onto the racetrack. So need these little morning warm-up sessions. You don't learn a ton in terms of chassis, maybe a little bit, but if you've had issues and you're making big changes, but otherwise, really just to get your drivers head back into the game, get that mindset where it needs to be, and start thinking about that qualifying session.
Well, let's look towards qualifying here with X30 Junior and try to give you a little preview, right? We know the class has been stacked to the brim with talent this year, and they're at 20 deep here this weekend. But there have definitely been a few kids by the halfway point of the calendar year that have really started to shine. And how about the first of them on our screen? That is Ty Fisher on that Race Lab Karting lime green TB kart headed back to the Cell Tower hairpin. Running right behind Sarah Bradley. Ty Fisher has been knocking on the door what feels like since January 1st and maybe even some races last year of that first career national win in either junior category. And he's running both. He's put it on the pole. He stood on the podium, second, third, plenty of close calls. And actually on this very layout here, 2 months ago for the Stars race, he was leading up until about halfway through the final lap. He has been close.
Xander, isn't it awesome to see the development of some of these drivers? You know, we've been doing this for a number of years. Obviously, I have, you have. You've watched when Ty first kind of came in, and there'd be these flashes of brilliance. Like you said, he qualified really, first, second, third, somewhere in the top 10. And then he just wasn't able to kind of show it in the race. He would get shuffled around a little bit, but was always right there. I love to see when they finally start coming into their own, and once they start getting that confidence. Like you said, a breakthrough victory for Ty, especially midway through the season, I think would set him up for a great second half, right? Heading into the Super Nationals, heading into some of these other fall events, right? He's just waiting for that first breakthrough and to put the TB card on top.
And behind him, how about this young lady? Yeah. Sarah Bradley got her first career national podium in Orlando earlier this year. And an interesting thing of note, Speed Concepts Racing, while they've typically been with the Red Speed and OTK brands, they've got her on a SOTI kart. This was kind of a last-second call as she actually had an issue with her go-kart a couple of races ago. Hopped onto a SOTI mid-weekend just because they didn't have another frame to go to, and they wanted to, just get her on something they thought would be good. She's liked it. She stayed on it. You can see it while they're still running the OTK bodywork. She has that black and orange SOTI kart steering wheel, and she's been just as fast with it. So it's been fun to watch her adapt to that program. And, we talk about, you've seen all of these great initiatives to get more and more young female talent up the racing ladder. Sarah Bradley, if she's not on the radar for any of these, IndyCar paddock owners or USF team owners, she will be there very, very soon if she keeps progressing the way that she is.
Again, David and I talked about it in our Outlap podcast, and we looked at this weekend, previewed it, and talked about the fact that she's on that SOTI kart with Speed Concepts. They've got some fantastic drivers there. And listen, not only is she knocking on the door of that big win, she comes here third place in points behind Jackson Wolney and Diego Ardiles. She's had good success here in the past, as you had mentioned before. So this could be that place where she gets to be able to break out that first big win. Like, you remember, you look back when Hannah Greenmeyer got her first big victory, scored the championship in the X30 senior class, and what it's done to her, propelling her forward where she is now, being able to be one of the top sports car drivers, especially as a young female, carrying that flag for young racers around the country. Sarah kind of stepping her way to the forefront right now, and it'll be awesome to see her get a victory here this weekend.
Now let's take a look as well at some of the other ones around. Talking about different brands as well into the SCR tent. Jackson Wolney, who just crossed the line, he's on a Kart Republic. They switched over to that, I believe, right before the U.S. Pro Kart Series event at Badger, Wisconsin. And they were fast there, and it was good and maybe not so good that was also the debut weekend that Diego Ardiles came over to the camp. So it was great to have another fast driver. Jackson and Diego were teammates a year ago at RPG. Now they're teammates together again at SCR. But the difference was, for the first weekend they were back together, they were on two different chassis. So they could compare engine data, they could compare driving. But what worked on the KR versus the OTK, and speaking a bit with his father, was like, yeah, we're just having to do a little bit different. And sometimes the OTK, we get going a little better than the KR or vice versa. But he says, I want to stick with it, I like it, and we're going to make this Kart Republic work. And as we look at the end of the results, he ends up fourth. His teammate Ardiles right there with him in third. How about, though, Chico Brown on the last lap, actually bumping everyone back a little bit on the 768 RPG Cosmic. He went to a 109.98, put him a 10th up on Ty Fisher, and then Alex Vanchev and Bradley.
Yeah, Diego Ardiles, as you said, capping off your Fast Five. Jackson Wolney, Iago Lempin from RPG in 7th. Fionn Shi, Dean Peterson, and Lillian Scarborough rounding out the top 10 here in the X30 Junior class. The class brought to you by the Rawlson Performance Group. There's Ardiles, there's Bradley, Wolney, Fisher, all rolling themselves into the scale line here at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Again, welcome, folks, to the Summer Nationals, final rounds of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour 15th season for this program. Started back in 2010. There's the shot we see so many times, the water tower here in Spiceland, getting ready to, again, get back at it. More racing still to come, more warm-up. And, of course, the Pro Show warm-up. Xander just around the corner. We go Mini Swift right into Pro X30.
Yeah, and then, of course, right from there into qualifying. All of that, again, free to view, folks, here. We're going to be right back with more warm-up sessions when we return from the break here. Rob Howden, myself, Xander Clements, the Kart Chaser team, the Superkarts USA crew, and 230 or 40 or more drivers here in Newcastle, Indiana, for a beautiful day of racing and another full day tomorrow when we return. Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Car Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Car Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit carclass.com to get your track information.
USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parolin Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParolinUSA.com.
Welcome back here to Newcastle Motorsports Park. Mini Swift onto the racetrack now, and just getting started with their morning warm-up session presented by Trinity Karting Group, Kart Republic. Rob, this class has seen a few stars join the helm from the micro class, a couple new winners over the summer. But let's first lay the baseline of who is racing on the line for a championship come tomorrow.
Yeah, I really think probably 5 guys we need to talk about. Obviously, Afternoon coming in with an 85-point lead over Royce Vega, those 2 drivers, P1 and P2. Troy Ferguson and Josh Bergman, they're 3rd and 4th, 139 and 143 back respectively. Then I think you still look at Rocco Simoni as well, 186 back. Drivers further back, as we know, need to almost have perfect weekends, right? You've got to get every possible point that's out there and hope for maybe some issues with the drivers around you. Nonetheless, even a driver like the 175 of Marco Senna with a shot as well. He's 207 back. So, again, you got to dig. You got to find the best weekend you possibly can. And the thing is, as you know, Sandra, everybody out here is trying to do exactly the same thing. So having a perfect weekend is one of the toughest things to do at a level of competition this high.
Well, and again, this place, even with that added shark fin to make it a little bit quick and technical, is one of the biggest super speedways that we go to. Yeah, we're talking a layout now. The regular layout's 1.1 miles. I would imagine with that shark fin, we might be looking at maybe like 1.2, potentially. Potentially, which would put it again by and far the longest, track design and layout on the national calendars. Off the racetrack for Nico Orbezo, I believe, is that the 107, maybe.
He's holding on to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I looked for potentially him. If not, it was, no, that's Miguel Manzano. So Miguel Manzano, he is one of the new drivers into the Mini Swift category. He's actually running micro in the U.S. Pro Kart Series, which started around the same time over at Speed Sports in Houston, but he's finishing in the Mini Swift class here at the SKUSA Pro Tour. And he has actually been on the cusp of running at the front in this division as well. But Enzo De Janeiro it is a new home for Enzo on the Super Tune USA Paralyn, the 190. We've seen him mostly in the black and blue Team Ferris racing colors, so he's one of a couple drivers that we're seeing in a different camp this weekend. On screen there, Grayson Walcott, Marco Samet as mentioned. Right now they are towards the back of the top 10. Walcott 10th, Samet back in 13th, as now we do have things properly sorted on that leaderboard on screen. That does have it sorted by lap time. So De Janeiro, Rocco Simone, Braden Wagner on the GFC. There's a look at Enzo De Janeiro and his new blue, white, and red Super Tune USA Paralyn. But I do want to give a quick shout-out, Rob, here to Braden Wagner. Back at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, the Spring Nationals, he had a very scary crash in the pre-final. He had one heck of a comeback drive in the main event. Sadly, again, a day like that would be a drop day if he was closer in the championship, but it showed a lot of heart. And for him, he ends up pretty high up here in the warm-up results. As we watch on the screen, looks like he faded down to 5th. Josh Bergman with a good lap late, a 117 flat. Grayson Walcott 2nd. De Janeiro, Rocco Simone, then Braden, and then again, Troy Ferguson, another name who has been a contender in the mini swift class for, I believe this is a second real season of him at the lead group.
Yeah, 3rd spot in the points coming in for Troy Ferguson, one to watch. You mentioned Enzo De Janeiro. That, of course, the news broke earlier this weekend. We saw that press release come out that he was moving over to Super Tune. We'll see how that plays out on the weekend for the driver of the 190 there, rolling on the final lap. Josh Bergman, though, in the 140, 4th place in points. Always nice to roll out quick in practice, knowing you have the pace there. Of course, as we mentioned throughout, as you'll see the unofficial results there, Bergman, Walcott, De Janeiro, Simone, and Wagner top 5. Ferguson, Trebe, NG, Macha, and Hodge cap off the top 10. Such a short session, Xander. You mentioned 1.1, 1.2 miles in length. It takes all the way around before you get the first lap in the books where they leave coming onto the straightaway there. So it takes a while to get the first lap in. They're really only putting 2 or 3 laps on time and another full lap around to get to pit lane. So we're only seeing a real kind of snippet of the pace. It'll be a little different when we go qualifying. They're going to have to do the same thing and really make it happen over those 3 laps.
Right, and one class at least that this warm-up being a short 2-lap run, maybe 3-lap run that really is going to benefit will be the first of the 2 pro categories, and that is up next. Pro X30 on deck, Rob, and it is an unprecedented championship prize structure for both that and Pro Shifter. $10,000 to the champion in cash this year. A fully funded 2025 SKUSA Pro Tour for everyone in the top 10 for entry and race tires in the championship standings, valued at over $3,600. And then I believe the top 2, if not the top 3, also get a Supernats entry in tires for this year, on top of their race day prize package as well for the main event tomorrow. And this weekend, it should have been a weekend to clinch and bring it home for Ryan Norberg, who dominated the weekend in Orlando. But even through Cincinnati, him and newcomer to the division, Kai Hunter, drove away. We're class of the field 1 and 2 until Ryan Norberg had the reeds go out with about 5 laps to go on the motor, forcing him a DNF. It dropped him majorly down in the points to 5th, and all of a sudden, this is the tightest championship fight going into the finale weekend this class has seen in a little while.
Yeah, less than 98 points separating now the top 5 drivers: Ramos, Jones, Massimino, Carr, and Norberg. And again, the driver who's going to win this championship has to step up and be big here. That's the bottom line. You have to get every point you possibly can, optimize every opportunity. And I think Ramos comes in here with a lot of pace too, and a lot of momentum, and looking to try to grab that championship. It's going to be a barn burner when it's all said and done. We go racing tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, Diego Ramos has been typically pretty good here at Newcastle Motorsports Park, and his consistency has put him in the championship lead. He's been a second and a third consistently. Again, this is a driver with PSL Karting who they have been very happy with the development of him. He's known as a very technical driver, very good on the chassis and setup side, and he always finds a way to be quick and consistent. And he has gotten plenty of podiums over the last few years, both with PSL and prior to that with Racing Edge Motorsports, but he has not gotten that major win. The only really, by our standards, kind of measuring all the major national wins in the pro senior categories he had was earlier this year at the Rotax Senior Max Winter Trophy event. in Orlando. Beyond that, it's just been podium, 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 close runs in the points. Even last year at the U.S. Pro Kart Series, he led going into the finale, lost the lead into the championship to Ryan Norberg. This weekend, he leads coming in again, and I'm sure that's not haunting him, but on the back of his mind like a chip on his shoulder.
Always seems to do a great job throughout the course of a weekend, right? The body of work through the weekend, finding more pace, getting quicker, trying to be there at the end. You talked about the fact that Ramos, with good consistency through the year here right now, a couple of podium finishes. Jones, obviously, we know, was quick in the opening round as well. Massimino's been consistent right there, top 5 kind of all year long. It's interesting. It's the guys up front who are first, second, third in points, still looking for that big win on the season. We'll see if it plays out here at Newcastle.
One driver that got a big win a couple weeks ago, granted not in the SKUSA Pro Tour, was Austin Garrison. He was class of the field over in Dowsman, Wisconsin, and the SCR Red Speed group are really happy. They're leading the points majorly in that championship, but they have not had the best shake of things through the SKUSA Pro Tour. Now, they were unsure of whether or not to finish the year out, but realizing that they could have a fully funded season for 2025 if they stayed in the top 10 in the points, is like, all right, we're going to run to Newcastle, and we're still going to get ourselves into that circle of champions for the SKUSA Pro Tour. Very similar to the IndyCar world with the Leaders Circle Fund for the top 22 points. And again, that's to try and keep drivers wanting to come back, have a reason to come back, and continue to race against the best. Treat us to some awesome racing in the senior categories as they whether move on to college or to car racing and try to lessen a bit of that budget burden.
Yeah, you're going to say the quality of the pro show and the consistency through to the end. Like, you've been doing this long enough to know that a lot of the times in the end of a season, maybe the finale, drivers who aren't in the championship scrap may choose not to run. Now you're going to keep everybody even in the top 10 or just outside the top 10. They're going to make sure they keep running. A tremendous payoff to come back next year, that fully funded program. A great move by Supercarts USA to put that together. You talk about this coming in. Here's Austin Garrison, 9th in point. Harley Keeble in 10th. Nicholas Terlecki in 11th. These are drivers, if they have a good weekend, are going to, like you say, be able to come in with some budget help for 2025.
Now, one driver here, Paulie Massimino, it would be a lot of budget help if he could get his first career national championship in a pro division. He has already become a Supernats winner in the KA senior category, and he kind of had a very interesting development curve over the years. He's a veteran now, and for those of our newer viewers, may not know his backstory, but he moved up. Actually, at this event, I was teammates with him. Go that far back, all the way to his debut rookie season in senior. And after that, he ran a bit in the second year, but in 2018, he made the move over to the KA senior category with the tutelage of Mike Doty and Brandon Jarsicrack, moving to that program. And they said, you know, let's kind of reboot a little bit. Let's get you in the 100cc class, get you at the front there, and then we'll go back over and up into the pro categories. He's been here since 2020 when he returned, and he has been absolutely exceptional for Paulie Massimino. Sorry, 2019 was the year that we were, 2018 was the year he first moved up. 19 at 100cc, I was a year off, but 2020 moved up, and he has only had, sadly, 2 wins to his name, and one of them being the shootout race, kind of the all-star race, the IME Grands. And earlier this year, he finally broke through on a last-minute opportunity at the Stars Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway and got his first career win. He's had the best start to any year that he, by both admission of him and his father, that they've had over the last few seasons, how strong they've been, how fast they've been, how the results have come. He said in his interview back at Charlotte in May, he's like, Xander, I was starting to doubt myself. I just wasn't quite sure if I'm ever going to get there to the top of the podium and, whether or not it was me, because it just felt like nothing ever went right. He got a big win there. He enters this weekend with a serious shot at $10,000 and an extra $5K in prizes.
You know, Massimino's a guy we see run 2-cycle, runs 4-cycle. Anytime there's a race, whether it's I'm here at it or I'm watching the Kart Chaser or following on with EKN, he's always up there. Right? He's always the top 10, always ready to break out. And another driver here on screen, Harley Keeble. We talked, David in the Outlap talked a bit about the silly season, right? We've had with drivers moving around. Harley Keeble, of course, started the year with Sony Kart, moves over to the Inter MS on a Kart Republic. This, I think, will be a story that we'll watch develop throughout the weekend and how much he's able to step up in battle.
Right, he's only had one weekend with the group so far, and it was a decent one in Wisconsin, partly due to a scary crash with Ryan Norberg, Nick Terlecki, and his teammate ADT on the final lap. But the Inter MS boys, they're rolling in warm-up. We spoke with Harley earlier yesterday, and they were struggling, but an engine change to try and find a little more horsepower, put him right where he needed to be in FP4. He and Norberg were tied to the last lap. Ryan pulled out a little bit quicker. In happy hour, they all were very, very close. And now here in morning warm-up with just a couple laps and trying to get that early lap pace, not necessarily for stage 1 of Qualy, but the pro classes have 2 stages, which will be so fun to watch on the premium side when we switch over to it. Again, they're split up even in odd groups based on practice versus the slow and the fast group like the semi-pro divisions. You've got to go top 6 in your group, and then the top 12 are spaced on the racetrack, seconds apart, no tow, 2 laps by yourself, and that will set the first 12 starters on the grid.
So you mentioned how quick Inter MS were P1 and P3 in morning warm-up. Alessandro De Tullio coming off a couple of great weekends in the USF Pro 2000 category. Super impressive what he was able to do, of course, coming in with BN Racing. But again, the number 2 ranked driver in the country goes P1 in morning warm-up of 108.393, just a tenth ahead of Ryan Norberg, who's second. Quick. Harley Keeble third. We talked about Harley. We also talked about Paulie Massimino P4. Austin Garrison seems to be riding a wave of momentum right now in that Speed Concepts racing machine. He was P5. Hayden Jones right there in the championship, currently second place in points. Jonathan Porth, Donovan Bonilla, Aiden Levy, and Santiago Fernandez wrapping up the top 10. And Xander, I'll give a shout out to you. So in Toronto, we had Alessandro Julio on the pre-race show with me. We wrapped up the pre-race show, did a fantastic job his first time, and I said, you got to give a shout out to Xander, because all the work that they've done, you guys do with them here in Kart Chase, all the time they're on the camera, all the time they're in front of the microphone. By the time they get to me at the USF Pro Championship, they're dialed in. So well done on you, and great for ADT as well. He was super smooth in that pre-race.
And it's super cool to hear that, Rob. Not only that, but I also got to chat with ADT a little bit yesterday and coming into the weekend. While he does sit in the top 10 in points and would be in the winner's circle, next year is a bit up in the air on the karting side, but for a very bittersweet good reason. He looks like he's got, hopefully, all of the pieces to pull together a full USF Pro Championship season next year and continue his climb up the ladder to be an IndyCar hopeful. But he said, Xander, I'm still going to run Supernats this year, and I'm going to try and get it in as much as I can. But, you know, again, as you know, Rob, there is so much budget that comes into putting those programs together, and the same with IndyCar, that a lot of the times, sadly, it means the drivers are limited during the year of what they're allowed to do just to make sure they don't get hurt, because there is so much built around the driver at that point. This isn't like what we've got here where, yes, we'd love to see drivers commit to a full season, but again, it's still karting. You can pick up your own go-kart, pay the entry fee weekend by weekend, and work on it all yourself. That's not the same in a Formula race car with salaries on the line for mechanics, engineers, truck drivers, and all that, so it's totally understandable. Sadly, we don't know if we'll get ADT as much here this year, but hopefully he's with you next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping full season with BN Racing in the USF Pro 2000 category. It seems that's the way it's going to be. Obviously, you know, when Alessandro did his USF Juniors racing a couple of years ago, got a chance to run that category 1 year, won a bunch of races, and turned a lot of heads. But to find the budget to be able to do it, that's the toughest thing, Xander. It's a lot of money to run USF Pro 2000 when you put this license in where, you know, like this kid can pass what it takes. And again, you talked about not wanting to get hurt in the kart, not just the funding, not all the people that are working in the program, but also just the simple opportunity that's been given. You know, you don't want to give up that opportunity. You don't want to ruin or damage the chance being just 2 steps away from IndyCar. And again, we're excited to see what he does next year.
We were watching AJ Myers. He's one of 2 drivers with a serious shot and potentially more at the championship and pro shifter. But as the X30 or Pro X30s make their way into the scale line, David Land is standing by with 1 driver with a serious shot at this weekend's title. Dave?
Win, but it's just another race. Just got to be as consistent as possible, stay at the front.
Well, you know, I mean, we've been talking about it all morning long, the big championship prize at the end of the rainbow, $10,000 in cash. I mean, is that something you can even allow yourself to think about for a second, or do you just have to stay totally focused on the task at hand?
Yeah, definitely just got to focus on what's happening, like, in the race and what's happening. You don't, like, for me, I go out and just race a race as it is. Like, you don't care, like, you do care, but you don't think about the end result. You just want to win that race. So I'll try and finish as high as possible. Yeah, definitely before you go out, it definitely gives you that bit more, like, a bit more want that there's the big prize at the end of it all. But in the race, it's just another race. You race every race as it is. You just want to get the best points, the best result in each race. So
Brandon Carr, he's got the eyes on the prize, and the prize for him is race wins, and the championship will take care of itself.
You know, Xander, I hear a lot of that and have for many years. The guys up front will say straight up, all I want to do is win races, and if I win races, the championship will take care of itself. And that's what Brandon said there. The bottom line for Brandon was, I'm going to go out and try to win this race. If I win the race, I'm going to give myself the best opportunity. The other guys around him, we know that Ramos and Jones, Massimino, Norberg, all in the middle of this fight as well. All Brandon wants to do is just go win races and let it, you know, the chips fall where they may, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, at this point, you know, he's gotten to, this point in the championship, focusing weekend by weekend. So, you know, that's sometimes, Rob, you know it. There's so much on the line in the USF Pro Championships. There's obviously a lot on the line this weekend, more than probably many of these drivers have ever contended for when it comes to a championship that you've kind of, you know, it might throw you off and you might, get, almost, persuaded into thinking and working the weekend from a different mentality. But the way you got to where you are in the points is the mentality you should keep from earlier in the year. Don't let the pressure and the prizes and everything on the line kind of affect your drive, because that's how all of a sudden you may end up driving a little different, thinking a little different, or get rattled easier. Again, when you're out there, it's just another race. Whether it's the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, the SKUSA Pro Tour, it's just another race. Focus on getting to the checkered flag and being smart. But if you allow your mental to kind of think about all the outside factors, it can throw you off your game.
Now, you have a game plan you have to execute. Like you said, I don't care if it's a club race, your first karting club race, or if it's Indianapolis 500. You have a game plan, execute it, stay with it, stay focused, and get the job done. And again, if you win the race, everything else is going to play to it. And again, same thing here. Let's go into Pro Shifter. We talk a lot about the Pro X30, the Pro Shifter drivers dialing things in. Mateus Morgado, though, listen, I wasn't able to be at the Winter Nats, wasn't able to be at the Spring Nats, but I watched it. And this guy, Mateus Morgado, what a season so far.
It's been incredible. And one of the things about the alternate format they've added to both the Pro X30 and Pro Shifter races, about 20 to 25% on the laps.
Yep.
And part of that was by design for the single-speed X30 class, because they were so close in times to add a little bit of tire deg and try to get them a little more of a longer run mentality. You know, talking to a few of the drivers that had made the jump to the USF Pro Championships, they were saying, when I come back into a kart race, when the checkered flies, that's my last 10 minutes of the USF 2000 or Pro 2000 when I push.
Yep.
And then vice versa. You've seen plenty of USF Junior and USF 2000 races throwing it away on lap one, turn one. And so hopefully with this, we're seeing more drivers think a bit long-term, big picture in the race. But what's been such a fun, unintended consequence is the heavy horsepower, heavyweight Pro Shifters. Those last extra 5 to 7 laps, tires cooked, body's tired, throwing around sideways, and Morgado has made it not look easy, but he's been able to beat two of the best so far.
Interesting, a side note on that is a lot of the guys I talked to in the paddock as I walked through yesterday were talking about the softness of the tire. The fact that rubber is going to start going down on the track like we haven't seen in a number of years. You go back to the early 2000s, and we'd have like an inch and a half of rubber laying on the racetrack, and you'd just be locked down. We haven't had that with the tire compounds we've used for the last couple of years. There really hasn't been a lot of that rubber laid down to add the grip. We're getting more of that right now. So you can talk about the fact that as the tires goes down, as you start to get a little tire deg near the end of the race, drivers start getting tired because of the extra laps. That's when the storyline really starts to get that new wrinkle, right? And again, here's the thing. We were talking about this yesterday, Xander. During the middle of practice, when everybody was out here banging laps out yesterday, Marian Kremers was in the air. He was flying here because of a late flight. Here he is. He comes out, rolls out, and David Cole and I were saying, yeah, he knows this racetrack. He'll be fine. How about P1 in the first couple of laps of morning warm-up?
It's insane. Again, going through his last few days, this is just incredible, right? So he was here last weekend, to be fair, but he obviously wasn't here for Thursday or Friday. So last weekend flies in from Amsterdam through over to Indianapolis Friday. Tests on Saturday, tests on Sunday. I believe maybe got some laps Friday as well with RPG on the previous weekend. Then Monday morning, flies back out over to Europe. Lands Tuesday, tests with the Tony Kart Factory team on Wednesday, and on Thursday night, makes it to the airport at midnight, a connection at 3 in the morning, another connection from Detroit, got to Indy, got delayed. He was supposed to make it by happy hour with the delayed connection. He landed at 7 p.m. last night. This is his first session back here in 7 days. He had Patrick Hayek, former world champ, driving his go-kart over the last couple days, but he hadn't driven in a couple years. And while Marian knew the setup was good last week, you talk about the rubber build-up, the track definitely changes with 2 full days of action. and he just went out and went P1. Incredible. There's a reason why he's the back-to-back #1 plate and champ. Sadly, he is not in the championship hunt. He had a mechanical failure that kind of started to go away, and then eventually a crash in the Orlando main event, and then was unable to get behind the wheel and compete at Cincinnati. So they've got him back here for the finale, and it'd be a long shot, but if he, let's say, had a perfect weekend, pole, heat wins and main events, that's 310 points, Rob. So 310 points for Marian Kremers. He's 146 back. That's not necessarily out of the question to get to the top 10.
Hey guys, I'm the only one with comms, so I can't do two things at once. I was, I was going to try to.
Kremers might punch his ticket again because he's racing this race and Orlando off the free entry and tires from last year's championship, and he kind of caught wind of what was starting to come together for the package for 2024 when he won the title, and he called me aside and he's like, man, I really wish I won this actually next year, because it sounds like next year is going to be a little more fun to win than this year, but still, great start.
Let's look at the fast drivers up front here. Marian Kremers, you mentioned the #1 plate on that card. How about number 2 and number 3, 1, 2, 3? So the 3 number plate holders from last year, Marian Kremers, Kyle Wick, and Jacob Gulick, 1, 2, 3. Hunter Pickett 4th. Michael Avancino capping off your Fast 5 right now, driver who we saw win the challenge of the Americas Championship out in California, probably Arizona and California in the spring. Ron White brought the team out. He and David Williams are here this weekend, which I think is great to have those drivers coming out from California.
Yeah, they are so stoked to be here, right? And, catching up with Michael, he's a friend that I met years ago through sim racing. And, of course, living on opposite ends of the country, we hadn't seen each other all that often. And he's like, dude, I'm just so stoked to be a part of this this shifter field. This is the biggest single division shifter class outside of the 2 major Vegas events, Rock Vegas and the Supernats, since 2017. 7 years that we have had class slowly develop, and here this weekend, just massive turnout. But also what was interesting about that, the 2 and the 3 plates here, Kyle Wick, Jacob Gulick. Gulick was 6th in happy hour, and Wick didn't get out at all, broke on the outlap. But again, different, results from happy hour to warm up. I mean, not only is this a massive field, this is a stacked field of pro shifter drivers. And looks like we might be able to get to chat with the #1 plate, Marian Kremers. Just saw him walk past the camera there with Caleb Vieska in the scale line. So, let's go down to you, Dave, and hear from our reigning champ, who has had probably the craziest travel schedule I think anyone has had this year, period.
How's the sleep schedule going?
There's not much of a sleep schedule. I mean, I had a good night's sleep last night. Luckily, I got in around 7 p.m., so went straight to bed. Woke up this morning at 6, and here we are.
So explain this travel schedule to the viewers at home, because I think they need to hear it from you. Explain how many travel miles you've racked up in the last couple of days.
Miles, I'm not sure. I mean, too many. Last week, about 8 days ago now, I came here, did some testing over the weekend, then had to go back to Europe, tested in Italy the last couple of days, and then I was planning on doing at least happy hour yesterday, but unfortunately my flights got delayed and I didn't make it to happy hour, so just a 5-minute warm-up had to do, and I think it went all right.
There's many such cases of flights getting delayed these days, so you mentioned it went all right, you've got the #1 plate, you've been fast. I mean, how much of a read can you get in a 5-minute warm-up session?
I mean, not that much. I mean, I had new tires on, most of the other guys didn't, so that definitely helped me a little bit out. Had a little issue with the engine, so I had to come in a lap earlier, and we'll try to fix that for Qualy, and then we should be all right. I think we're in the mix.
That's an understatement. Marian Kremers is always in the mix, boys.
Thank you, Dave. What an impressive run. And then again, thankfully at least he got in, early enough to get a good night's rest. Who knows what the jet lag has to be for the week. I talk with, we've gotten to see Jay Irwin and chat with him more and more, as this has been such a breakout year for that young Kiwi. Just turned 16 years old on Thursday. But he, most of the time in the morning, he's still about half awake because it's about midnight back home in New Zealand. Marian, I don't know if he still gets jet lag, if he doesn't, because he seems like he's in a different time zone separated by 5 hours week to week to week to week to week. But he's used to it. He's a professional. He's a 2-time SKUSA Pro Tour champ, a former FIA world champ. And he does have a shot, like we just did the math on, if he has a good weekend and that was a decent enough read to put it on the pole or at least win a heat and maybe win the main. get himself into that circle of champions.
Listen to what he said, right? Most guys went out on used tires. He had new tires, so a little qualifying simulation as well. He knows what the car's going to feel like coming out on fresh rubber, which is going to be good for him when we go qualifying.
And he's got to turn it on quick. Again, they're going to, with a 5-minute or 6-minute, I believe, opening group session, for Q1 in the pro classes. That's normally, still 4 or 5 laps at, MCC, Cincinnati, at, Orlando at the beginning of the year. But running lap times over the 1-minute marker, again, it's not going to be much different than warm-up. 3, maybe 4 laps if you want it, and then 2 laps for Super Pole. So you've got to be good at turning the tires on early and peaking on lap 2 or, at the minimum, lap 3. A couple guys went quick on lap 4. We cannot wait to see that, because this week, in the first 2 rounds of the championship at just over 20, and then by Cincinnati pushing 30, the top guys, Kremers, Wick, Gulick, Jay Irwin, Panis Morgado, AJ Myers. It wasn't a huge question of whether or not they'd make it through. This weekend, top 12 out of this group of 33, actually more than that, 35 on the list, and there are 35 here. Jared Ramnarine and Philip Nemkowicz did not get out. So 35, only 12 get to go to Super Pole, top 6 from each group. But first, we've got to set the grids for all of our semi-pro divisions, and we're going to kick it off with the biggest total class here this weekend, KA100 Junior Group B, being set onto the racetrack. I believe 46 is the number of KA Juniors. They all will transfer through to the main event, so that's good news. We did not. We were just live right after their warm-up session this morning. Ty Fisher was quickest by a lot, 0.6 over Turner Brown, Luca Popescu, Max Weiland, Dean Peterson. But I'd imagine a good part of that was cleaning up the racetrack. And the temperatures this morning have been the coolest they were on the race. They've been on the circuit over the last 3 days. And I don't know exactly what the weather was last weekend. But, again, starting at 8 a.m. for the SKUSA Pro Tour might be a little earlier than a regular day, as we got one off. I believe that's Luke Cruz, potentially on the TD Kart South. TD Kart up on the side of the hill, and he's not alone. Looks like maybe Indy Anderson on the TKG Kart Republic is stuck here as we get going with qualifying. What a bummer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what do they tell you? Just stay out of trouble the first lap. Do not get off the racetrack. Don't get into anybody. You're trying to warm those tires up. We know how crucial it is to lay these laps down quickly. You said 3, 4, 5 laps, probably 4 laps around what is now a longer racetrack than normal. We talked about that early in the broadcast, using that shark fin, the Monza, between the scoreboard corner and the I-70 hairpin. It's going to change things up a little bit. Got to find the right guy on the racetrack. You got to make sure you're there with someone just as quick as you, maybe a little bit quicker, to be that chase driver for you. And again, just getting things underway. Qualifying for round number 5 in SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, the Summer Nationals here at Newcastle Motorsports Park. The morning warm-up is done. Now it's time to get at it for real. Official qualifying underway for drivers here in KA100 Junior.
Yes, and this is 24th on back. On screen right there is Nico Sarfati in the 830, so he was the first driver just outside of the cut zone to go to the fast group. Luckily, he's got Travis Pettit right there. Travis was in the top 10 on this layout, on basically this tire compound, the MG version, not the Avinco version for the Star Series here a month and a half ago, so we know he's fast. These two, we expect to be probably 2 of the quickest. They're going to catch up. Looks like Luke Cruz was able to pull himself up by his bootstraps to get back onto the racetrack. The fast drivers are going to catch him, and then he'll have to slide in line behind him.
So, Xander, you and I talked earlier about trying to find out what the exact final event number, entry number was. I know when we did the preview podcast, I think we were at 211, I believe. 230 drivers entries to cap things off here for the weekend. So a significant number of walk-ups, as we talked about. 2 of them coming in that pro shifter category. It was 33 in the preview. 35 drivers set to roll off for the pro show event here this weekend, round 3 for the pro category and the pro shifter drivers. So 230, good number to cap off the Pro Tour season, the 15th edition of this tremendous program.
Opening laps coming in here for the 46 drivers of the 230. Mateo Calderon on the Super Tuned Tony Kart, actually. Quickest. Pettit was second. Calderon is back in the end of this group there on the 899, so he's the back of a train of 5. The benchmark set at a 1:13.763. Now, I think Sarfati and Pettit will probably go a little better, as Mateo got a great run up to this group, but now he's on the bumper of all of them. and that's where they kind of stack up. Really, the picture perfect, the dream lap here at a track this big started about 5 car lengths back from 2 drivers in front that are pushing, or a pack like this end on their bumper. They're going to push and go fast. You will suck up to them in the draft on the straightaway and go even a tenth better. So I think that's what happened for Matteo on the first lap, and there we can see it. Sarfati and Pettit just put about 3/10 on everyone.
And Xander, a lot of guys will figure that out. They'll find the driver in front of them. They'll slowly work up, get those tires up to temperature. You don't need to chase them and get to them on lap number 2. Take your time, get those tires up to temp, start hitting your marks, and then be ready to knock it down on lap number 4 when it's time to get at it. As we said before, Nico Sarfati's gone to the top of the charts. Travis Pettit into the second position. Everybody dialing in. Everybody goes quicker, of course, on lap 1. They go quicker on lap number 2. They continue to find extra pace. Calderon was quickest on the opening lap. Sarfati jumps up to P1 on lap number 2. We'll wait for lap number 3 to come in here as well. And Jensic now up into 3rd. Kyle Drysdale 4th. Thomas Anthony 5th. Calderon drops to 6th. Michelke 7th. Kidd, Malatesta, and Cranston. Your current top 10. Again, this is the first group that will roll out. 22 total in this group here. We'll have the remainder of the drivers roll out for the next group. There's a big move to the inside there. Probably something you don't want to be forced into doing, and that's making a pass. But if you get checked up, you've got to get back at it. Lap number 3 going to start coming in the books for these drivers here now. We'll see how things dial in. In fact, it's going to be the checker flag. That's going to be the end of the session. And there you go. Not a lot of laps. We talked about the fact that you really have to get it done. 3 laps is what these drivers are getting on the clock. Remember, as you come out, start finish is right across from where Aaron Likens was standing right there. But when they come onto the racetrack, they come all the way up around the outside distinction. They merge onto the track after turn 1 into essentially the straightaway leading down to I-70. It's a full, then, over a minute, probably a minute and a half warm-up lap all the way around before they first come across the timing strip. So in that first lap all the way around, we're not even getting the first time until they get back around. So it's going to be almost 3 minutes, over 3 minutes likely before we get our first time lap in the books.
Right, and so that means that for all of the drivers in this group, that they're probably going to have enough time to get through the scales, and right as the first lap starts, start sweating and see how far they drop down the board. For now, though, again, the benchmark, a 1:12.787 by Nico Sarfati. Travis Pettit, 400ths off, pushing him around. Darren Kidd with a good last lap. Manuchik again. Kyle Drysdale right there on the Ruthless Karting group. Talk about another West Coast group making the long run over here with a decent contingent. And they had Xander Malatesta down there. He ended 15th. They've got, I believe, about probably 6 or so under the group this weekend. A couple of KA juniors. I believe they've got a KA senior or 2. But the Arizona-based operation in the top 5 for the first of the 2 groups here in KA Junior.
And we talked about Travis Pettit. He's the driver who made the move to the inside of Sarfati. Was getting checked up a little bit. Indeed, his best lap, his second lap. Not able to go any faster on lap number 3. Neither did Sarfati either. Darren Kidd did, as you mentioned. He turned a 1:13.009. Ends up being just a little under 0.2 of a second off of Sarfati. But that's the time that will be your provisional pole time. Nico Sarfati on top, 1:17.729. But with another group of 20-plus drivers rolling out here, Xander, you have to expect by lap 2 or lap 3, we're already going to see a new guy to P1.
Well, got to give a bit of love of this guy here on screen, Enzo Vidmontien. He very well could be the new guy to P1. I was talking with one of the tuners on the grid, and he's like, yeah, when I work with my kid on practice day, the one kid we don't even bother putting the stopwatch on is Enzo, because that kid is just next level. He has been so good this year, and sadly this weekend, after running double duty for the majority of the season, they did not have everything together to be able to compete in X30 Junior, so they're like, we're still going to be able to at least race in KA Junior, but he has been a driver that has won races that has kind of, I would say it's almost puzzled people, because he has been so good at passing someone for the lead while the pack is close and making them really, as they begin to play the games of leapfrog.
Gotta watch out here.
Yeah, I got to be careful. Well, what's been so fun to watch about Enzo is he does a great job making sure that driver loses not just one position and tuck in behind it, but they have to really jam on the brakes. So kind of drag the brake to the center of the turn, keep them pinned on the outside, dirty their tires, and get it enough where you can trigger that fight for second and break away. He's done it. Again, one time, all right, maybe that's a fluke. Maybe the drivers got behind, got a little silly and battled and let him win. He's done it multiple times. It's been the way he's won a lot of these KA Junior races because so many kids are so good in this class. The little bit lower horsepower to the X30 Junior division without the rev limiter as well packs them in a draft pack. It's hard to do that.
And this is a racetrack that really, I want to say, makes the drivers who lose a spot want to hold the outside. You'll make a move to the inside. There's a lot of corners here where drivers will try to hold that outside line, and it doesn't usually play well. Almost better to check back up, and for Vid Montien to play with that and actually able to manage an overtake, not fully making the pass happen on the exit, but instead keeping the driver who he's overtaking to the outside of the racetrack, giving them the thought that they can hold it, only to bring them back into another fight. That is something that we see some of the top drivers do, right? Manage the situation, take care. Once you, like I always say, if you own the apex, you own the exit, right? So just a strong effort by a driver like Vid Montien to get wins like that. We'll see what plays out again here this weekend when we finally do go wheel to wheel.
Well, we're just starting to see everyone from this group jump up the boards a little bit. The first couple here, Isaac Malkiewicz, Alexander Vanchev, and Enzo Vid Montien, they were a bit slow to start the lap, so they didn't really move up the boards much, but Chico Brown did, Diego Ardiles did. We need to update that for Ardiles with the new team transfer. I believe he may have entered under RPG. He is actually with Speed Concepts Racing. We will get that swapped over for you. But the 897, the 836, those are the fastest two out of this faster group. The first group still holds first, second, fifth, sixth. But again, that was just their opening lap. They've passed a little bit. Vanchev's been shuffled back here. Dean Peterson's in this group. There's Ardiles at the back of the train in the red and white, red speed.
112.787 fast lap for Sarfati. He came on lap number 2. Remember, they're only going to get 3. Ardiles already third, and Turner Brown to fourth on lap number 1. They're essentially first lap at speed. They'll come back on the straightaway from 14 to 15. Let's get back at it once again. There's the 836 to Turner Brown. Does he go to P1 first time by? In to go lap number 2. We'll see how things shake down here. And indeed, up front, Turner Brown, 111.947. Sarfati dropping to 9th on lap number 2. So Brown, Ardiles, Vid Montien, 1, 2, 3. Max Weiland now up into 4th. Ty Fisher 5th. Isaac Malkiewicz in 6th spot. Dean Peterson 7th. Alex Vanchev in 8th. Sarfati and Pettit 9th and 10th. Does anybody else find more speed here on lap number 3 to move those drivers back? Both Sarfati and Pettit, lap 2 was their best. But right behind them right now, we're looking at Jackson Wolney still. He's ready to take a run at it, so expect Wolney to be up there as well, coming in P5 in the points. Brown, again, P1, but Ardiles, the point leader, coming in by 125 markers. Final lap here in qualifying for drivers in KA 100.
I don't think anyone's going to go better than Chico Brown, though, Rob. I will say, we talked about, again, Ardiles was the back of that train. Chico did exactly that. Perfect toe lap for Turner Brown. Started way back from that group of 5, ended up right on their heels. He's obviously 2.5 tenths clear of Diego, another 2 tenths clear on Enzo. They may go a little better this lap, even with some shuffling. You saw Ardiles go by on Vanchev and Malkiewicz to work through the group. He will not go much better. Vid Montien will get close on that last lap. He'll go to 2nd. Mad Max Weiland on the Magic Kart to 3rd. Ty Fisher back up the board to 5th. Jackson Wolney into 6th. Chase Gassiet Lee, Edgar Rodriguez, Martin Jaramillo, and Isaac Malkiewicz the top 10. Couple major shakeups, and again, this is just the bummer for a guy like Alexander Vanchev. He sees all of the drivers that he was running with in that pack. The same for Dean Peterson, go to the top of the board, and the two of them just not getting a clean lap in, getting passed on their good laps, end up 11th and 15th.
Yeah, from the opening group, Nico Sarfati in the 830 goes 16th, and Travis Pettit in 17th. So they were able to get a couple of spots there in what is, again, a massive 44-cart field here in the KA 100 Junior class. Just getting things got underway with qualifying. Xander Lott still to come, rolling things up here.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to go. So as the KA Juniors head into the scale line, folks, that's one class in the books, KA Senior, when we return.
Behind the wheel, from Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Colin, I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 tooth sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as like tomorrow. Dude, are you even listening? Like, we need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the Kart on Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop akr.com.
I'm David Serra, 18-time Australian karting champion, and we're launching Kart Class. Kart Class is an advanced digital training program that suits a driver who's just starting out in the sport, all the way to the driver looking to win a national championship. In this program, you're going to be learning about how to find the ideal racing line and what an apex is. Braking and throttle markers, wet weather racing lines, and how to overtake other competitors. We target how to brake in the wet weather, and we look on the mental side of kart racing as well with our mental skills coach. At the completion of this program, you'll be lighting up purple sectors in qualifying, know when to defend on the opening laps, and how to pressure your opposition into mistakes. We teach you the tools to be resilient and how to get in the right frame of mind before a race. We look to complete the whole package by getting a strong mindset, a driving style to suit all conditions, strategizing your race, and getting the last 1% from your team. We'll teach you how to win the final lap of a race, driving the wet like Max Verstappen, and creating the perfect bubble for yourself to mentally be in the zone. To find out more, click the link below.
Welcome back, folks, to Newcastle Motorsports Park. Qualifying underway for round 5, the semi-pro categories here at the Summer Nats, part of the Pro Tour action here, capping off the championship. I'll tell you, folks, we had a great qualifying run there in the KA 100 junior class by Nash Motorsports. Turner Brown, P1 by 0.05 of a second over Enzo Vidmontiana. He stands by right now with Caleb.
Rob, and like you said, not a bad start for the birthday boy who turns 13 today, a pole position to start off this day as you look to solidify 2 national championships here this weekend in KA Junior and X30 Junior as well. But walk me through that session. P1, man, how does it feel?
I mean, it was a crazy session all around. Everyone was battling, passing each other at the front. I mean, we were all not being the smartest people, but I ended up getting a good lap on the second one. I knew it was going to be a heater, and I was catching the front pack, so I knew that it was definitely going to be that lap, and was able to get it done with the draft, and we'll see how the racing goes.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about the racing, right, this morning it's going to be very different to, considering track conditions. It's going to be a lot different this morning than what it's going to be later on in the day. How do you prepare to kind of switch that setup over to I guess, the later part of the day today?
Yeah, I mean, I trust the team. We're all in performance group RPG. has given me a really good package all weekend long, and I'm confident that they'll make the right setup choices and we'll be fast to gain some pre-final points.
Well, there you guys have him, Chico Brown, the birthday boy, on pole position in KA Junior. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Caleb. And indeed, Alexander kind of alluded to that, how we saw Turner get that quick lap. We saw the lead group in front of him. Just kind of rolled up, used that draft, and that was the lap that he used. So, again, it's key to put the cart in the right spot. Manage your qualifying run. Only 3 laps is what we're seeing here in terms of actual laps at speed. So somewhere in that 3-lap run, likely lap 2 or 3, you need to position yourself correctly so when you are closing on that pack, you're able to fully leverage the draft in front of you. Back on track right now with drivers here in KA 100 Seniors. Sodi Racing USA, the sponsor of the class. A good group of drivers here this weekend. 38 strong, all battling for a championship. Finnegan Bailiff coming in as the point leader, but only 37 markers over James Overbeck, 52 over Stephen Miller, and Connor Ferris 143 back. Definitely still in mathematical contention to walk away with one of the most hotly contested championships here on the Pro Tour. First group of drivers onto the racetrack. They're going to start getting their first lap in right now. As I said before, it's a minute and a half from when they get onto the racetrack before they come back to even hit the beam for the first time, get across that timing stripe buried under the racetrack in that final corner. Then they come all the way back around again to get that lap in. So we're looking at somewhere around just a little under 3 minutes from when they leave to first get an indication of what the opening lap looks like. So right now, there's Stephen Miller, the Nash Motorsports machine, up front with a 111.904. So there's your initial lap for Miller. Finnegan Bailiff into second, Chase Busaglia into third, Troy Roussel in fourth, and Matthew Mockabee rounding out your early Fast 5. Only the opening lap. Now we're actually into lap number 2 now. 2 laps in. So lap 3, if you laid it down, you position yourself correctly here, just outside the top 5, Anthony Rivera 6, Michael Levitt in 7th. And there's a driver off. And that's not what you want to do in qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Keep the cart on the racetrack. It hurts, especially in a class like this when you're further back. And this is, again, as I said, just the first group, 19 drivers onto the racetrack right now. Behind Levitt with Braden Johnson, Carson Sauter, and Xavier Diaz. Miller's 111.904. What does that look like when he comes back to start-finish here? Checker flag out. Bailiff goes P1. Yeah, point leader goes to the top of the charts. Finnegan Bailiff. The 949 TKG Kart Republic P1, a 111.504. So able to go 4/10 quicker than Miller. Miller ends up third. Busaglia goes up into second as well. So just over 1/10 of a second separating Finnegan Bailiff and Chase Busaglia up top. Stephen Miller third. Anthony Rivera fourth. And Lorenzo Kaufman outside the top 10 goes to P5, the Inter-MS driver in the Kart Republic, just 3/10 back. Sawyer Roussel, Matthew Mockabee, Frederick Manning, Michael Boyadzis, and Michael Levitt rounding out the top 10. But again, as I said, only 19 of the 38 took to the track for the opening circuit. One driver off further back, as we said, but there you go. The initial lap time, the provisional pole for Finnegan Bailiff, 111.510. Is it enough in the slower first group onto the racetrack? We'll see how it plays out here now for Bailiff as we work our way through the qualifying sessions for the drivers here in those semi-pro categories. If we look at the schedule, pro qualifying, 10:25 for Pro X30, 10:40 for Pro Shifter. Then we crank it around for Super Pole, 10:55 for Pro X30, 11:10 for Pro Shifter. So by the time we roll into the lunch break at 11:30, we're going to have our grid set for the afternoon's pre-finals. Of course, the opening heat race for the pro category set to go about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we'll line up 6 main events for you, beginning at 2:35. We'll cap off the day with Pro Heat number 2 at 5:05 and 5:23. And then, of course, wrapping up the day, podiums for the categories. And there is your lineup there, folks, when you are dialing in. Of course, warm-up and qualifying this morning, free to everyone. And then, of course, KC Premium members will get an opportunity to watch those Pro Heat races and Xander the pre-finals and the finals as well. That's one of my favorite parts of any IndyCar weekend is when they have qualified, because you see how close it is for the guys that are on the bubble, right? And then you get the emotion of the drivers who maybe didn't make it in by a couple hundredths of a second. And you're going to see that again here. Top 6 drivers from each group go. It's that driver in 7th that's like, I was so close. I was so close to getting to that 12. And we'll see how it plays out. I look forward to that. And again, yeah, like you said, we got guys that we expect that are going to be up front, right? The guys that we think are going to be racing for the wins, but it's that middle part of the pack. You'll see drivers really step things up. I love it. Can't wait. Yep.
Where you finish overall in KA Senior is exactly where you're going to finish in qualifying, unlike with the Pro Show qualifying that definitely takes some inspiration, obviously, from the IndyCar fantastic qualifying structure just without the Firestone Fast 6. So 2 stages, top 12, send them out, let's go.
I'm super excited for that. It's going to be great, and we'll see which drivers are able to step things up. As I said earlier, it's the drivers we know are going to be there, but some of those ones in the middle that can really move themselves forward in terms of their reputation, where they are in the sport, and again, just to be able to get into that group of 12, I think will be fantastic. Finding and Bailiff, as we had said before, set provisional pole time in the first group of 111.510. We'll see which drivers start to work their way up here quickly in the lead group. Kane Martin, actually Eli Warren on his opening lap goes a 10th quicker than Bailiff. Eli Warren, a 111.390, and I talked to his dad Keith and Eli yesterday, and they kind of liked where they were. They didn't want to be the fastest driver in happy hour, but they knew they were close. They were closing up on that group that was running together with Caleb Gaffera, I believe, and Henry Wheeler was in there, and again, very happy with the fact that they thought they had the pace. We'll see if it still plays out. Opening lap in, but quicker than Bailiff already, a 111.390 for Warren. Kane Martin, Henry Wheeler, and Caleb Gaffera 3rd, 4th, and 5th on their opening laps. So indeed, things just starting to dial them. Wait for those second laps to start laying in here.
Yeah, it's going to change a bit. There we go. Big lap right on screen. What a lap from Keegan Kaminsky and Fernando Luque. Those two on screen there just went to the top. Wheeler 3rd, Gaffera 4th. On screen here, Nick Gabriel. Eli Warren's going to pass him as they're chasing these two. These two drivers here working together, pushing and getting a big run towards Kane Martin just up the road, who just went 5th. They're in a great spot. Now, up at the front of this pack, this helmet, this suit, this looks very familiar. It looks, and the suit literally says Aiden Levy. Turned a lot of heads, and Aiden had a lot of fun messing with people. Now, he's running in Pro X30. The new change as well with the alternate format, limiting some track time. They're not allowed to run KA and X30 at the SKUSA Pro Tour anymore. So, with everyone showing up for Aiden Levy in KA Senior, or thinking it was him with his helmet, his suit, says his name on it. They're going, Aiden, what are you doing? Are you running both? How'd you cheat the system? What are you going? Practicing. He played into it. He loved messing with him. As into the pit lane goes Kane Martin. It was Caleb Gaffera. He tested Thursday. He was not slated to race, and then said, well, I'm fast enough. We're going to run.
Yeah, we're going to do it. Chad said, hey, listen, you're looking good. Let's get you in there. Gaffera strong right now. Into the, where is it? Gaffera, well, it's P1 in the last lap. Big lap at the end. Caleb Gaffera to the top of the 110.673, just 37 thousandths of a second. And let's talk track record.
New track record by 0.6 of a second. Caleb G on the Chad Duncan Racing Kart Republic debut. How about that to debut? First official session, and he puts it on top. Sporting the previous SKUSA Pro Tour champions suit and helmet. So, well, we saw that package obviously do pretty good last year. It does it again here this weekend. Henry Wheeler with a great final lap as well. The PSL Bureau Art made it close. He jumps right to within 400s, and then it kind of spreads out to the rest of the top 5, Rob.
Yeah, fantastic run there up front for the Shark, Caleb Gaffera. Wheeler goes 2nd, Colin Lloyd 3rd. James Overbeck, these are drivers in the championship fight as well, right? Overbeck comes here 2nd place in the championship points. Keegan Kaminsky went P1 for a second before everybody else came calling. Fernando Luque, as you had said before, 6th. Eli Warren, who looked good, 7th. Kane Martin, 8th. Jake Drew running here this weekend as well for the GFC camp. Like to see him come back out and get racing. He's 9th, and Josh Campbell 10th. I think the key right now is you got to go all the way down to 15th for your point leader, Finnegan Bailiff. not out of the realm that he's going to be able to get back to where he needs to be, but definitely made some more work for him, Xander, in the pre-final.
Yeah, and with Finn, with the rest of the drivers so far in the KA Senior Championship, when you look at kind of the year that they've had in the first 4 rounds, first with Finnegan Bailiff, he did not have a good second day in Orlando. He won the opening mains and had a bad run on Sunday, so he doesn't have a drop to burn. He needs a good Saturday and a good Sunday, but talking about one driver, one off, no points, all about the race. He just put it on pole on debut with the new team and new chassis. Caleb Gaffera standing by down with Caleb on Caleb Viesca in the scale line.
So Caleb actually further back. He will work his way up here to our interview station, but just a quick report for you guys and viewers at home. Connor Ferris pitted early, flat rear left tire for Mick Gabriel as well. He had motor issues, sending him into the pits early, and then Steven Eisert, unknown issue as well, found himself coming into the pits early as well. So those are 3 big contenders here this weekend that find themselves in the pits, but I see Caleb right now. He's towards the back, and we'll talk to him here shortly. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Caleb. We'll definitely get back to you when you get a chance to talk to him. And you're right, Connor Ferris, Xander, did not even get 1 lap in. As we scroll further up the order, Steven Eisert with the issue. He only got 1 lap, but a good one. 17th for him on that 1 lap. Mick Gabriel, another driver we expect to be in the fight for a race win here. He's 14th. So right around Bailiff. I always like to see if there's anybody quick that you can kind of race with. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gabriel and Bailiff lock up and work their way forward here when we go pre-final racing.
And Gabriel did that on his opening lap or second lap, and he pulled in on what would have been the final lap. We saw Eli Warren passing him to start that last lap. So Gabriel with a flat tire. Ferris, that bad weekend already, unfortunately goes to worse. Not a single lap turn. He'll start tail end in the pre-final.
Could be one of our best stories of the weekend, though. You start at the back. We know he has the pace to work his way forward. You got to be smart in the pre-final. Get yourself somewhere up, I would say, the top 15, top 14, I think, to get things underway.
Yeah, well, with KA Senior, Sodi Racing USA, the presenting partner, wrapped officially, at least on the on-track side. They've still got to go through scales, got to make it through post-race tech and penalties. We'll step away for one more moment. On the other side, we should be able to get through the scale line and chat with Caleb Gaffera and as well continue to roll through. That's class number 2. We've got plenty more to roll here from the SKUSA Pro Tour Summer Nationals in Newcastle. You're watching Kart Chaser.
Official North America racing team of Parallel Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParallelinUSA.com.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're going to need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com. They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes?
Yep.
Gloves?
Yep.
Rip protectors?
Got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next? Well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Car Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Car Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit carclass.com to get your track information.
Parallel USA.
Back at it once again here, folks, at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Qualifying continuing for round number 5 here of the SuperCars USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals. Rob Haddon alongside Xander Clemens here in the Kart Chaser booth. Excited to be back with the SuperKarts USA event, my first Pro Tour race of the year. It's weird to say, Xander, seeing as the fact that I think I did every race for the first 13 years. Missed a couple because of my my conflicts with all the work that was done. Organizations working together this year, moving your schedules around, which was great. Didn't work for me, but I'm thrilled to be back here. It's been a while. Again, you and I, we haven't worked together since, I think, February.
Yeah,
So-
and again, that was a partial weekend for me.
That's
right,
right, yeah.
with Henry Bodette kind of helping cover while I had some other commitments back and forth on both grounds of the Speedway. So really, if we go back, and then the Super Nats, well, that's just a crazy event. I was off-site for what felt like over half the week.
Very true.
Bouncing around. So if we really got to go back, it's probably this event last year, you and I had
probably right. 2
full straight days hanging out, watching go-kart racing, talking about go-kart racing, and enjoying the breeze. And thankfully, up here, a little bit cooler temperatures than a year ago where we're at in the big scale house over here. You can see right there, we're in that big building just above where the drivers come in to scale, and it got pretty toasty up here. Last year, the year before, we were sweating pretty good. This year, cooler temps, I think sure everybody's loving it. Feels fantastic outside. It's still pretty good for us so far, but I don't want to speak too soon. We're early in the day. We got a long day ahead, and we got to set the order first for our micro slips presented by J&M Racing. Right now, what a good lap to start for Danny Ramirez, the RPG Cosmic driver. There he is in the 213. He's trailing Hudson Howard, and one of the Team Bennett entries might be Sterling Mulata and more. So they're going to come put 2 laps complete. And while they go, we'll keep an eye out on the times on the left side of the screen and send it down to now David Land, who has gotten Caleb Gaffera all the way through the scale line now and ready to talk with our KA Senior overall pole sitter. Dave?
Thought it was for a second there, but it is actually Caleb Gaffera. So you broke the track record by a significant margin. I don't know if you're aware of that yet, but how did it feel out there? It was obviously quick.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty solid. I mean, we kind of threw this all together on Thursday. I was just supposed to be here coaching, and I'm coaching and racing now. So we were starting off with a pretty good weekend. So.
Yeah, and that was what we were kind of talking about in the broadcast booth. Is you weren't really thinking about it, and then you found out you were so fast, and you decided to give it a shot. So I mean, what's the expectation? Is it just go out there and win? I mean, obviously you're off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal here. I mean, always gotta go for the win. I mean, if you're here to lose, then you should go home.
Now tell us a little bit about the seat. We hear a lot about seat swapping. We don't hear a lot about suit and helmet swapping. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I didn't know I was gonna drive in the first place, so no one told me to bring my gear. And then I was like, I called Aiden actually on the drive up here. I was like, hey, can you bring some extra gear for me? So
that's a lesson learned. Bring your gear next time. You might be on pole. So it's not actually Aiden Levy. It is Caleb Gaffera. He's the new track record holder and on the pole position later today. Back to you, boys.
Well, listen, that's a lesson for every driver. I don't care where you are. You always bring your gear. Always. I don't care if you're in a kart race, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. If you're a driver, bring your gear. You never know when an opportunity will roll up. But I do like the fact that he rolled out and all the Levy stuff. Everybody was freaking out that Aiden was able to run 2 categories. But yeah, listen, Caleb Gaffera, we know how good he is. It's an opportunity for him. We saw him during his junior years be super, super strong and did Skip Barber School last year. This guy, I love to see him coaching now as well. I know he wants to be a professional driver. But I love when to see drivers start doing some coaching. I think that's a really good thing to round out every young driver's resume as well.
Yeah, he has been putting in the work. Caleb Gaffera, not only coaching, he actually has worked with us. Rob, we put him to work at the U.S. Pro Kart Series event back at his home track at Trackhouse. Put a post out. He needed some help. One of our camera operators at a family emergency couldn't make it. And we said, Caleb, we're sticking you out in the weeds, and you're going all the way out in turn 4. He did great. He had a great time. We had a great time working with him. You know, we can call him, I guess, kind of one weekend in a bit of KC zone. He's definitely put the work in off the racetrack to keep his driving career going. I mean, he has been behind the wheel of just about everything, and that I think also helps, right? How diversified his last 2 years have been. To have a weekend like this where you just rock up last second, track layout he hasn't driven, chassis he hasn't driven, package he hasn't driven on the national level.
And what's he driven this year? He was in a Legends car for a bit there. The guy's just driving everything he possibly can, which I absolutely love seeing.
Well, let's take a look at the kids that are looking to eventually become Caleb Gaffara's and many more of the superstars in our older categories. Our youngest division, Micro Swift, ends up with Jaden Francisco on the pole. He won here on this layout for his maiden national win for the Star Series a month and a half ago, and he's back at this layout again, first session back. He's on pole by a good margin. Hudson Howard with his career best national qualifying effort, son of former IndyCar star and now USF Pro Championships team owner Jay Howard, P2. Mulata, Perriman, Simone, Lucas Tarango, Danny Ramirez, Win Gottschalk, Zane Burgess, and Jake Manalio, the top 10.
So Zane Burgess, your point leader right now by 281 markers over Santiago Orioli, all the way down in the 9th position. So I think we would have expected Burgess to be a little higher up, but that means they will key on that 255 when we do end up going racing this afternoon. We talked about the fact that we'll have the drivers in the pre-finals roll up just after the lunch hour. 12:30 start time for KA100 Junior this afternoon, 8-lap pre-finals. KA100 Senior at 12:45. Micro Swift at 1 o'clock. Master Shifter ready to take to the track right now for qualifying. They'll go wheel-to-wheel. Pre-final racing at 1:15. It'll be X30 Junior at 1:30 and 1:45 for Mini Swift. After that, Xander Pro Show Heat Race number 1. Set to go at 2 o'clock.
And then we run back through the rotation once again. Once the Pro Show Heat 1 ends, we go straight into semi-pro main events, kicking off top of the order with KA Junior, all the way to the end of the day with the Pro Show final round of heats, heat number 2, just after 5 p.m. for Pro X30, and right around probably what will end up being around 5:30 p.m. For Pro Shifter. So it's a full 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. day tomorrow, a little bit earlier. Hopefully everyone is able to hang around, because tomorrow not only will it be race day podiums, it'll be championship podiums as well for all the divisions once the Pro Show mains wrap up in the afternoon. So Master Shifter last year was one of the first races in what felt like a little while that they had enough drivers to run their own day or their own sessions, not be on the racetrack at the same time as the Pro Shifters. Tony Leone got the request from a number of the drivers that wanted to come and run the Summer Nats. He said, if you can get 10, I'll give you the division. I believe they ended up right around that number, maybe 8 or 9. But this year, we've picked up now to 13.
Amazing, right?
So we've got added a few more. The Stars Championship Series had a good contingent. Now we're seeing through the SKUSA Pro Tour at all 3 rounds, we've had a full Master Shifter class, at least full enough to get their own piece of real estate in the timetable. Hopefully that will continue, and we get to see more of them continue to come out and bang some gears.
The great thing about the Summer Nats here, you're thinking gearbox racing, if you're watching from where you are around the country, around the world, this is the biggest event of the year in both Pro Shifter and Master Shifter at 13, 33, 35 actually we ended up with in the Pro Shifter class. So awesome to see the Shifter Kart guys kind of step up here midway through the season. A couple of drivers have been in the sport for quite a while. Skitchy Barnes, Michael Gouache, Joe Rook, but also we have the return of Justin Kelly as well. They took the first half of the season off. Justin and Tiffany were saying, we're going to take this year off of karting. We're going to relax a bit. We'll come back. They literally couldn't last the entire year. So Justin's back. Tiffany's going to run, I think, the next event. I think she's going to run maybe the next Stars event. But it's just Justin on track here this weekend. But I love the fact that they just couldn't do it. Like, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They wanted to get back to the racetrack.
Well, and again, they've got, they're so into it, right? I mean, we've seen they've done a great job documenting their journey on Facebook. The two of them showing up to different tracks all around, tasting different parts of the Midwest to the middle kind of chain up from, Oklahoma and Texas, and then off of the East Coast and over around. I mean, they've had a ton of fun, and it's been cool to follow their kind of journey, because it's pseudo-privateer. When they go to the bigger races, sometimes they'll link up with a bigger operation, but, a lot of the time they're doing a lot of the work, the prep and the teardown themselves. Yeah. They've done a great job of being great ambassadors and documenting that, so everyone else can see, you know what, I can do that too.
I love it. Indeed, they got the motor home, they got the trailer. They're out racing, having a great time. So I'd love to see the husband and wife aspect of it. And Justin Kelly, as we know, a former Summer Nationals winner here as well when he returned back to the sport. Did a lot of indoor karting. I actually had a chance to indoor kart race with him as well. There's Joe Rook, though, one of the leaders of the Vermont Racing Company operation on that Maranello. They have been impressive. Joe Rook's had a great year this year. Scotty Barnes right in the middle of the fight as well. Those are the drivers, the two that are fighting it out for the championship right now. Michael Gouache not out of it either. Luis Quiones and Larry Pegram, the top drivers, top 5. Pegram not here this weekend, but I think we're going to see Barnes versus Rook versus Gouache. And I always talk about Michael Gouache because at 66 years of age, I think that's just such an amazing deal that he's still running top-level national events. I love it so much. Got so much respect for him.
What a cool story for Michael Gouache, right? I mean, he's, flown the stars and bars across the pond over in the European Le Mans Series. He has raced about everything under the sun. I actually got to catch up with him a bit more at Cincinnati's stop on the Pro Tour, and he's like, I don't necessarily miss the travel or even the sports car racing. I miss the people. I miss the paddock. He's like, that's what I really love about shifter karting. I love about, everything about there is with kart racing, and he's really enjoying it. Now, I will say it's always a little more fun when you're winning, and right now he's in the mix, but the quickest is actually just went his teammate. How about Mr. Bermuda? Skitchy Barnes to the top with a 106.85 that lap.
Yeah, Skitchy puts his Maranello on top, 106.855, 4/10 quicker than the factory kart of Luis Quinones, former champion in the category. Joe Rook currently in the third spot. Jeff Mills goes to P4, and Mike Rivera now into the top 5. Again, expect one more lap out of the drivers here as we're almost done. Can you get it done in the final circuit? A lot of the drivers I talked about, there's Skitchy Barnes right there from Bermuda. Gonna get married later on this year, getting married in late September, so kudos to he and Amber. Awesome watching this all happen.
Luis Quinones with a big gap to find on this last lap, lap 3. I don't know if it's going to be there again. The Master Shifter class is the first one on the new, or the alternate Avinco tire compound, the softer of the two, the Avinco Reds. Both tires got a facelift for this year with the Avinco Blues debuting in Orlando, the Avinco Reds new homologation debuting at Cincinnati, and it's the first class to put qualifying laps in, so let's see if the kind of peak lap is any different or if they can still go better on the third and final lap. That lap looks like Barnes did go better. He was one of the only ones that did. Quinones did not improve at all. The rest barely improved. So it's a near 7/10 margin for pole for Skitchy.
Yeah, big lap there for Skitchy Barnes. Almost 7/10, 0.677 quicker than Luis Quinones. Barnes goes P1, Joe Rook in third.
I think we might have just had one more that just jumped up. Tim Hollowell, last lap late, got close there, P2.
And we talked about this before. Tim Hollowell, the local driver here, pitting out of the garage over the far part of the garage area. On the TV card, he goes second, very quick. And listen, not only did he go quick, we talked, we're touting the almost 7/10 of a second margin for Skitchy Barnes. It ends up being 0.08 of a second as Hollowell on the last lap goes P2. Luis Quinones, as you see there, in third. Joe Rook fourth. Nicholas Bedard rounding up the Fast Five. Mike Rivera, Michael Gouache, Jeff Mills, Justin Kelly, and Cameron Castle rounding out the top 10. I said that Skitchy's getting married in September. Amber, it's actually Autumn. Autumn is the fiance who has put up with Skitchy for many years. So finally getting engaged. Kudos to them as well. I'll tell you, that'll be a fun wedding to be at. I was supposed to go. They wanted me to be the officiant, but I had another wedding I have to go to, of course, on the same weekend in Tacoma, which I'm really looking forward to that as well. But yeah, sending best regards out to Skitchy and Autumn. Got a chance to stay with them. We went and ran the street race in Bermuda last year. I had such a good time with them, and that was a fantastic race as well. I was just talking yesterday to Skitchy's tuner, Jeff SKUSA, about how great that event was. Just so much fun, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to potentially get myself back over to Bermuda sometime.
Well, while we wait for Skitchy to roll through and potentially get the opportunity to talk to our Master Shifter top qualifier, we've still got a few more classes to run in qualifying, but Micro Swift is complete, and what a margin it was as well for Jaden Francisco. Biggest, I believe, so far officially at nearly 4/10. Got his first national win here a couple months ago. He's standing by with Caleb down here in the scale line.
Thank you, Xander. Jaden, what a lap, man. You put it on the pole position by quite a good margin. Walk me through that lap. How was it?
It was good. We just had to I had to put my head down and focus, and we had to do data, figure out the track, haven't been here in a while, how to get faster, and yeah.
Yeah, and you haven't been here in a while, but the last time that you were here, you got a national race win at the Star Championship Series, and you can go get another one here this weekend. You got 2 opportunities, one today and one tomorrow. Feeling good for them?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Well, sounds good. Who would you like to thank for the pole position?
I would like to thank my grandparents, my mom, my dad, and anyone that supports me.
Well, there you guys have Jaden Francisco on the pole position here in Micro Swift. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Caleb, as we take a look back here at the live sign right across the way from the I-70 straight here in the I-70 corner at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Once again, those watching along, we've still got a few more semi-pro qualifying sessions to roll through before we go to the Pro Division qualifying format. That will be the first session right ahead of the pre-finals at around 10:15, 10:20 a.m. Eastern. So again, 9:10 a.m., 6:10 a.m. is when we kicked off this rotation. We've just completed Master Shifter. We have X30 Junior about to go out. Mini Swift will follow. Those at 10 and then 10:10 and then 10:25. My mistake, 10:25 is when we go green with Group 1 for Pro X30 qualifying. That's the first session behind the paywall for the KC Premium members. And if you're sending it out or letting your relatives know to sign up, it's $9.99 a month so long as you're trying to sign up on a non-iOS device. If you're on your iPhone or your iPad, Apple does tack on an extra $3 a month in fees, so get around that. We don't see it. You don't need to pay it. Go ahead and sign up on a PC or Android and log in on your iPhone or iPad afterwards. And again, if you're not able to watch or don't want to subscribe to the premium membership that we have on our YouTube channel, the full race replays from all of this weekend are always posted the following week, so you can watch after the fact. And then, of course, Sunday, don't forget, tomorrow, while the Pro Qualifying is behind the paywall, free to view the Pro X30 and Pro Shifter main events. And again, no NASCAR, no IndyCar, F1 will be done in the morning. We've got pro racing here coming from Newcastle Motorsports Park with some of the best in the business and the biggest pro shifter field in more than 7 years. We are so excited to bring you all the action here, folks. And again, we are just about a moment away, it looks like. They've gotten the command to roll onto the racetrack. So here we go, Rob, for X30 Junior, 20 drivers strong, a solid turnout of the 125cc junior category. And Master Shifter against Skitchy Barnes, a good gap over Tim Hollowell till that last lap. He got it close. I think this class might be even closer than that 800th margin that Master Shifter was.
Yeah, and again, remember, as I said earlier, we are in the middle of a championship scrap as they are here in X30 Junior with Jackson Oldie and Diego Ardila separated by just 22 points there. Bradley not that far back. You have to maximize every opportunity. The bonus points for pole, the points up for grabs, of course, in the pre-final. You have to take everything you can. This is not an opportunity where, hey, I want to start on the inside of row number 3, so I'm going to, or row 2, so I'm not going to get on the outside of row. No, you got to go to second if you can get it. You cannot leave any points on the table. I don't think you can do that throughout the season. And when you're trying to win a championship, you just cannot do that. Hands up in the air already. Here we go. Number of drivers at speed. This is where you're going to find yourself in trouble. Race director Bo Barfield will be looking at this. Are you impeding the guys in front of you? You've got to stay at speed. This is the same thing we see in the USF Pro Championships, Formula One, IndyCar. They mess around like this, and they are not going to like it. Look at this, Sander. What do you think? Here we go again.
Well, again, this is a big reason, especially for Pro X30, why this newer format I'm a big fan of, because I was tired of watching the class that the adults are supposed to be driving in look kind of like this. All this gamesmanship's a bit over the line, right? Again, I understand it 100% wholeheartedly, right? This is a 1,000-foot straightaway, another 1,000-foot straightaway, even with the shark fin or Monza in the middle of it. But at the same time, you know, it's just it's tough to police. It's not fun to be a part of as a driver. Nobody likes, I think, doing it this way, but it's just the nature of the beast. So you've got to be the last one to blink, or one of the last ones. You don't want to be the first one. Jackson Wolney, obviously, is the first one. He decided to say, you know what? I've got a better shot of just running a clean lap on my own. And it's a risk versus reward thing at every track, right? Do you want to try and get in the middle of a pack and maybe set yourself up for a tow? Might be a plus 1/10 or maybe plus 2/10 gain. But if you get in a pack that's side by side like this, it might be a minus 2, 3, 4, 5/10 loss, having to pass, getting bumped around like right there. I mean, so the risk reward factor, you've got to weigh out by yourself and play the strategy. Jackson's taken the lower risk, lower reward option, the safe bet, go by myself. This group obviously trying to go for a tow.
Xander, perfect example of what you're saying. The camera was right on that. There's drivers that are hung out to dry on the outside of a couple of different corners. You can't get back on power. You've lost that lap already. Now you go to the next one, especially when you're slow coming in. The time was already starting to slip away in this section. You find out where you don't get that first banker lap in, you could be in trouble not getting even one clean lap in. How many times Have you heard a driver lament the fact that their time wasn't good, but just didn't get a clean lap in? If you're Jackson Wolney out front, you're guaranteed clean laps.
And Turner Brown went the opposite way. He went all the way to the back. Granted, he was kind of in an awkward spot when he did drop back, so hopefully he doesn't get called for an impeding penalty. But like you said, Rob, that was in a 90-degree section. Would have been a lot better if he would have dropped back on a big straightaway. But in either case, he's gone all the way to the rear to get clean air as well. No toe for Chico Brown. So it'll be a head-to-head fight of him and Jackson Wolney on no toe times. The pack has kind of spread out. We're watching Ty Fisher chase Chase Gassy and Lee. Those two will get a little bit of help. They're kind of in a decent spot. Fisher might be even a little better. He closed up to Chase going into the cell tower. He ends this lap on his bumper. We might see that lime green TV card go to the top as Chico's now had to get by one of his teammates. Looks like Fionn Shi has dropped behind him in the 768. They're the last two. They'll be the last ones to cross, last ones to jump up. First lap for everyone at speed. We're going to see a lot of changes. Here we go.
Here's Ty Fisher to the top, as you had said, got that good draft. And Ty Fisher off of Gassy at lead goes to P1. Ardiles up into second. Turner Brown, open racetrack for Turner. He's got another driver to potentially chase down. He's in third. Sarah Bradley fourth. Byron Boardman rounding up the top five. This is Brown having to go to the inside over on I-70. That's not going to play well for him here on this final lap. Ty Fisher on top, provisional pole time, a 110.622, 110.651 for Diego Ardiles, back by only 21 thousandths of a second, 29 rather thousandths of a second, and then 8 thousandths back is Turner Brown. So 37 thousandths of a second separate the top three right now. They'll work their way out of the cell tower corner. There's another shot. Driver getting hung out to dry on the outside. That's Max Weiland. Again, that's the issue there. He was trying to get a lap in. Here's another move to the inside. Another driver going to lose a little bit as Ty Fisher goes to the inside. All this back and forth side by side is going to hurt them here. Yeah, they're going to go over under like the racing to the final couple of corners.
Well, they're going to the checkers here. It's going to bump them all down the boards. Diego Ardiles on the SCR Red Speed to the top at a 109.96. Dean Peterson there. Here comes Chico Brown and Fionn Shi. They will only get to second and third. And while Diego Ardiles showing RPG Cosmic, that was his former group, he's over with SCR and Red Speed now. So it's 1 and 4 for the Speed Concepts Racing Group. It is 2 and 3 for Rawlson Performance Group. The two powerhouses through this year in X30 Junior lock out the top 4 spots with Alexander Vanchev back to 5th, and the rest of the results here really quickly, Rob.
That played really well for Fionn Shi getting in behind Turner Brown, who dropped to the tail of the field. But as you said, Ardiles, Brown, Shi, Wolney, and Vanchev's top 5. Dean Peterson 6th. Javier Felipe Chaparro in 7th. Ty Fisher 8th. He did not get what he needed on the final lap. David Ramirez ends up at 9th, and Lillian Scarborough in 10th. But just as Diego Ardiles goes P1 here in this category, this X30 Junior class, David Land stands by with the driver who's P1 in Master Shifter.
What's up, man? Obviously a good start to the day, but how do you stay up there?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take it. Coming into the day, we're battling with Joe for the championship. I think we're like 30-something points separating us, so I'll take the 10 bonus points for the pole for sure. But just got to be consistent during the races. Not do anything dumb. We know we have the speed. We know we have the kart. Just got to stay clean and bring it home and see if we can't get this championship.
Yeah, it's interesting. There seem to be different theories up and down the grid and in the different classes. It sounds like you're definitely points racing.
Yeah, definitely. It's championship or bust for us. Obviously, we want to finish 1-2 with me and Joe. Be nice to get 1-2-3 with Gouache. But yeah, just being smart. Obviously, we're going out to win. But at the end of the day, we're not going to take any unnecessary risk. Try to get as many points as we can.
Championship or bust for Skitchy Barnes. He's got a good start, P1.
Well, with Skitchy Barnes P1 over Tim Hollowell in Master Shifter, they are now obviously with Skitchy through the scale line, completed and set for the pre-final. X30 Junior the same with Diego Ardiles on top for Speed Concepts Racing. We'll be looking to chat with Diego here shortly as he begins to roll through the scale line. It just leaves us one more category in about 3 minutes' time, the Mini Swift division presented by Trinity Karting Group. So 3 more minutes at 10 past the hour, they will go green. Gives us one more moment to have a word from our partners for our last session on the free section of Saturday's coverage of the SKUSA Pro Tour. We'll be right back.
Brandon, Why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Car Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Car Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit carclass.com to get your track information.
USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parolin Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParolinUSA.com.
Brandon.
Welcome back to the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, and while Mini Swift is just beginning to roll onto the racetrack, we have already gotten through the X30 Junior scale line, and it's official. Diego Ardiles with Speed Concepts Racing's on pole. Let's go down to you, Dave.
Get to talk about that. Let's talk about what happened just behind us with the big stack up and the kind of waiting game to get a tow. I mean, what was the thought process there? Was that kind of what was expected, or was it a bit of a surprise that the entire field slowed down there?
Yeah, I think I knew that the whole field was going to slow down because nobody wants to lead, so they don't get each other's draft. So I just waited. Some people went in front of me. I made a mistake in that lap, so a lot of them. I didn't expect like seven drivers went in front, but then I started to pass, and I got a good lap behind some RPG driver.
So how much of this speed can translate to later on today? How do you stay up front?
I'm just going to try to stay focused, no crashes, and nothing crazy for the championship.
Well, I would certainly hope there's no crashes, Diego. That's kind of rule number one of a race car driver. Don't crash. Diego Ardiles rolling off from P1 later on today.
Thank you, David. Again, Diego Ardiles, very impressive. I like the fact that we got everybody in the scrap right up front. It's going to be such a great pre-final today. As we know, Ardiles, Bradley, Wooley all in the middle of the fight. Ardiles on the pole, and hey, maybe more even important, bonus points for being on that pole position as well. That's 10 points to get things underway. So Ardiles trying to close up there on Jackson Wooley. They're only separated by 22 points coming in. So I'll tell you, by the time we're wrapping things up tomorrow afternoon for round number 6 in these semi-pro categories, there's going to be a scrap to see who walks away as the champion in that X30 Junior category. Rolling on to track right now, the Mini Swift class brought to you by TKG Kart Republic. They're getting their sessions underway here now. Again, that short 5 minutes we've seen is essentially 3 laps. You got to get the job done quickly. A couple drivers jumping out early to get things underway. Ashton Woon rolls in as your point leader, 85 markers over Royce Vega. Troy Ferguson, Josh Bergman, and Rocco Simone really still in the fight. They'll have to have almost perfect weekends to steal it away from either Woon or Vega, but still lots of racing as we know to come. Points up for grabs in qualifying, the pre-final, and the final. So 6 points paying sessions still to come. This is the first of the 6 here, qualifying for round number 5. As Sandra mentioned, working our way through the schedule here for qualifying. We'll have, after this, as we wrap up the Mini Swift category, we'll roll into pro qualifying. Excited for this qualifying session. My first chance being trackside here for the Pro Show qualifying with two groups in Pro X30 and Pro Shifter, top drivers, top 6 in each group moving into the Super Bowl run. Man, looking forward to that for sure. Pro X30 will get things underway. That's in about 12 minutes time. So we'll wrap things up here first with the drivers in the Mini Swift category. And indeed, see who steps up early to get things underway. Brandon NG with the opening lap. He'll draw first blood with a 1:17.027. Ben Gleberman goes into second. RJ Brown third. Kason Hodge fourth. And Marco Samet runs up the top 5. 15 of the 31 drivers onto the racetrack now. Egenberg 6th. Maxwell Macha 7th. Opening lap is Brandon NG. Almost 0.2 of a second gap on Gleberman. Again, just the opening lap, trying to get some heat built into these tires. Just getting them up to speed nice and slowly. Got to find out where you are, figure out who's around you, which driver you've kind of found yourself locked in with, whether you can get a tow. Picked up the 143 of Robert Lash there, the tail of the group coming through. This is lap number 2 now in the books. Marco Samet has now gone into P1, and G dropping down to the second. Macha, Lieberman, top 4. Wrapping out the top 5 here right now as well. William Vitor, Paxton Romero in there, RJ Brown. Samet at 1:16.230, almost 2/10 clear, Brandon MG.
Yeah, 2/10 clear, and with the long lap, we'll have to wait quite a bit, but we know that at least most of this group should be able to get their third lap in. Now, Marco Samet leading this pack is in a pretty tough spot to try and go better. He needs the 163 of Gleberman to give him a big shove, maybe on the run out of turn 14. There's not a lot of straightaway left in the lap here. A lot of this is going to be, again, just more technical. That straightaway is at the beginning of the lap, so it's tough to time it. It's tough to get the help. You need a lot. Samet right now outside of the top, or on top of the board, sorry, but I don't know if this lap will hold it, not getting a tow. Gleberman's closed a little. Let's see it. At the line, checkers from Aaron Likens. Does Gleberman go better? He does not. In fact, not a lot of movers. Climb to 6. Kason Hodge up into the 8th spot, but it will all hold station for now. There's a big run from RJ Brown into the top 5, but the top 4 will hold from their second lap, and Marco Samet's big initial run in the middle is going to put him on the pole in Mini Swift.
Yeah, great run there for RJ Brown. Final lap at 1:16.615. He's able to work his way up into the top 5, but Marco Samet, again, lap 3 did go a little bit quicker, Xander, 1:16.200, 2/10 quicker than Brandon NG, Maxwell Macha, Ben Gleberman right in there as well. So there is your first group. As I had said before, 15 drivers qualifying in the first group. We'll have 16 more roll out for group number 2, and we'll be keeping an eye on Josh Bergman, Ashton Woon, Royce Vega. We've seen them up front. Lorenzo Varela was quick earlier this morning as well. Troy Ferguson, Enzo Di Gennaro, Rocco Simoni, Braden Wagner. A lot of great drivers ready to battle it out up front. But again, essentially provisional time up front, Marco Samet, 1:16.200, 3 laps in. And indeed, only two of the five drivers in the top 5 going quicker on that final lap, both Marco Samet and RJ Brown. The other 3 took their time. Oh, there's a driver having some trouble coming out into the barriers, coming out. Xander.
Oh, no.
On the throttle, too much coming out of
no.
pit lane, and it just kind of pushed in the corner and got into the barriers coming out there. We'll see whether or not there's damage pushing that cart back. But again, listen, you got to take care of the cart not only on the racetrack, but as you leave as well, because as we know, there's obviously no grip on pit lane, and that driver in the 147. Wow.
Troy Ferguson nosing it into the wall on the run. And again, we talked about how in the X30 Junior class they were playing games and they all wanted to be in a pack they wanted to follow. I'm sure the first couple drivers that were the fastest out of happy hour were trying to race out of the grid to get away and not give any help to the cars behind them. And they were all trying to keep up and basically race through the access lane, and sadly Ferguson ended up going a bit too far and hit the marbles, hit the wall.
You're not going to hear me slam him too much, because in qualifying at the CKNA Grand Nationals last year, everybody pulled out. I got up in front of the grid with the fast guys. Yep. They all pulled out through the left-hander. They made the corner, and I went straight off the racetrack. It was a rookie move, hardcore rookie move by me. Set my weekend back a little bit. I was able to get back forward, but yeah, listen. You said it, Xander, the guys in front are pulling away. They're jamming. You're like, I can't let these guys get away. These are the guys I want to be with. And you try to roll that speed through the kind of 90 degrees to sweep around there on pit lane to get back out onto the straightaway. It's not that hard for the Kart just to push into the barriers. And again, for him now, it will be open racetrack for Troy Ferguson. No one to draft with at all. He'll have to do the best he can to potentially put that lap down running by himself in clean air.
Well, not to pick on Connor Ferris anymore, but again, he had that same moment, and then it wasn't the reason why he's going to the rear in qualifying. He had a different issue that didn't get him a single lap in. Depending on how Ferguson does here, it could be two really good stories. KA Senior and now Mini Swift might have some major players working their way up the field. And again, in the championship, Troy Ferguson enters third. So while qualifying doesn't pay a lot of points, that's not the bigger issue. If he can qualify mid-grade and still crack the top 10, maybe top 5 in the pre-final, he can salvage the day and not have to make today his drop. So it's not over yet, but it may just get a little bit more difficult to run up the gap to Ashton Moon and Royce Vega ahead of him. And those two drivers are right on screen working together here in qualifying to try and put a couple good laps in.
Yeah, 158 points to drop right now for Troy Ferguson. So even if he's able to fight his way back up and get onto the podium, that would be enough to drop that race, which is race number 3. So indeed, the first of the 2 races at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Just getting things underway right now. We said Marcos Samet was the driver out of the gate in the opening group, 116.200. As we look at the first group, they've already done it. Nico Katowski, John McClellan, and Royce Vega all quicker, Xander, on their opening laps, and by significant amount, over 0.3 of a second. The drivers up front working. Nico Katowski in that number 192, leading the way right now, 115.814. Just 2 drivers have broke that 116 mark. Katowski and McClellan, still a long time to go. We know we're expecting the fastest laps to come on lap number 3. But it's all about these drivers putting themselves in the right spot. Katowski at the tail of that trio of drivers. That also includes the 195 as well of Ashton Wood.
Yeah, so the top 2 in the championship are 2 drivers that are not bad at all to follow in qualifying. And obviously they've towed Katowski all the way to the top. John McClellan up there with him. Vega, that shows you the difference of a little bit of tow, right? Again, Vega's led this group around and, or at least leading it now. And that lap was nearly 0.4 slower than Katowski, who started a couple car lengths back and ended up on the tail. Now this lap with the pass on Ashton, he goes a little better. Ashton Woon, only 0.2 loss, so that shows you that he locked right on the bumper of Royce once Royce went by him. This lap could be mega because you can see 2 more karts are just up the road. So if this group of 3 runs up to Lourenco Varela and Josh Bergman and doesn't catch them too early, which I think they might, as Bergman just let Varela through, it would be a good 3rd lap. Now it might be a little bit tricky, and that could open the door for some of the drivers further back on the racetrack to leapfrog their way into the top 5.
Yeah, Royce Vega, Tucker Trebe, Nico Katowski, Ashton Woon, and John McClellan are your top 5. It was impressive to me that Vega was the lead group there. He did not really have much of a tow to put that fast second lap down at 115.644. As Xander mentioned, though, a lot of kind of wrinkles in this final lap as they caught a couple of drivers up front, Varela and Bergman. We'll see how that plays out and whether or not they're going to get the tow they need coming down out of 14 through to 15. That'll be the key right now. Do we potentially see a pass as well? Does Ashton Moon make a move by? He is your point leader coming into the weekend over Vega. This will be it. It's Vega, Trebe, Katowski, Woon, and McClellan. Here they come across the line out of the final corner. Checker flag, of course, being displayed. And what kind of movement do we see in the left side of the screen? The leaderboard will see De Janeiro go up into 2nd spot. Vega still holding on to 3rd. Woon goes all the way back to P5 as a great run there for De Janeiro. Final circuit, he goes to 2nd. Not quite enough, Standard, to steal it away, though, from Royce Vega. And when you talk about the fact that the battle between really Woon and Vega, Ferguson's still in there, but 85 points back, that's a big pole position for Royce. Not only does he get the 10 points, but he keeps it away from Ashton Woon.
Right. Again, you flip it. If Woon would have got the pole and Vega did not, it would have been basically that 10 points to Woon and 10 away from Vega. So a big swing there. And again, Troy Ferguson must have incurred some damage. I mean, he was pretty deeply buried into the plastic barriers there on the access road. So good chance for Troy Ferguson that the front end of that Bennick was nowhere near straight in a line of where it should be. If we flip the page here, you'll see, sadly, Troy Ferguson all the way down in 30th on the Mini Swift qualifying. So 30th out of the 31 for Troy Ferguson, the other driver in the championship fight, along with Royce Vega and Ashton Woon. And yeah, that's going to make things a lot more difficult to get himself some pre-final points and a good main event result. But it's a big racetrack. The races are long. There normally a lot of passing. There normally is a lot of passing with all the drafting and major passing corners that we have. So it's not over. Again, it's just a little more difficult.
So Xander, we have already 6 categories. The pre-final grids are locked and loaded. Now I'm excited. Now I'm ready to go. Pro qualifying. This is going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited to see this live in person.
Well, we're going to switch the feed over really quickly, folks. If you want to watch it, you got to be a KC Premium member. If not, you'll get to see the replay. Pro Show qualifying with Pro X30 up next.